In the wake of the All Blacks announcing Scott Robertson as their head coach following this year's Rugby World Cup, I thought I'd break down the best coaches in rugby. I'm focusing on current coaches only to hopefully give you a bit of insight leading up to the Rugby World Cup. So no, there won't be any mention of some of the greatest coaches in history like Sir Graham Henry, Clive Woodward, Kitch Christie or Rod McQueen. Of course, this is only my opinion, but I've tried to do it justice by making judgments on a variety of factors and not just winning percentage. After all, coaches can only work with the playing talent they have available at the time. In number 5, I got Scott Robertson. While many in the Southern Hemisphere have labelled the dyslexic, breakdancing, wildly successful Robertson as the best coach in the world, I can only rate him as high as 5th. Only because he didn't sign with the Wallabies. No, Scott Robertson brings records that can't and won't be matched by any coach in rugby. He has taken the Crusaders to 6 consecutive Super Rugby titles. No matter the opposition, he's always found a way to win. A career win rate of 84%, including titles in the Under-20 World Cup and ITM Cup. In his words, his style of coaching is bringing high energy into the playing group and creating an environment where everyone loves working and can be themselves. He credits many of his other traits to what he learned while coaching in France. What I found really interesting is he tries to build an emotional connection between every player and the club. He loves using the maul as a weapon and enjoys grinding teams down with constant tries and penalty kicks, which is just typical Crusaders. As the Crusaders have had a mixed start to the season, many have questioned how much of their success was Scott Robertson and how much was dependent on Jason Ryan. At the end of the day, the coach is the one pulling the strings and leading the coaching team. If he finds a way to continue his success at an international level and can give the All Blacks a bounce back in results, he will truly cement himself as one of the greatest coaches in history. Who I've penciled in at number 4, his second stint at Wallabies coach, it's Eddie Jones. He really has been around the block a couple of times. He coached Australia and England to World Cup finals, but has never managed to win the Cup. He's been assistant coach of the Springboks winning campaign, coached Japan during the 2015 World Cup, which really put Japanese rugby on the map. He's one of the most experienced coaches in world rugby who will be looking to put his expert man management skills on the line for the Wallabies this year. There's no single game plan that really defines Eddie Jones, as the playstyle is constantly adapting to the group in front of him. When coaching Japan, we saw a team with unpredictability that liked to use their speed and throw the ball around. With England, it was more power and physicality that they used to force a result their way. He blames his downfall in his final few years in England on when he spoke out on his struggle to develop leadership skills in the playing group, because too many players had such privileged lives in the team. Once those comments were made, he had the English faithful offside and was never able to recover. Even after a dismal last couple of years coaching England, he still finished with 3 Six Nations titles and 73% win record in just 7 years. As many of us know, he'll be very eager to prove he's still one of the best coaches in the world as he navigates the next 6 months for Australia heading into the World Cup. In number 3, I've got Fabien Galthié. I'm so sorry to everyone if I pronounce that wrong. Best known for his thick trimmed glasses and looking more like a professor than an ex-rugby player, he's achieved some special results as a coach. Nothing more impressive though than an 80% winning record while taking the reins at France. Currently sitting second in the world and just losing to Ireland to end that streak, they're looking very confident for this year's World Cup. There's a lot of mixed reports on Galthié's coaching style, but there's a couple of things that almost everybody agrees on. He has a brilliant rugby mind and may be the most intelligent, innovative coach in rugby. He nearly won the top 14 with a bunch of kids when coaching at Montpellier. The tactical side to rugby is his specialty, which is a big reason why France kick the ball more than any other team in world rugby. They'd simply rather defend and let the opposition make mistakes than grind their way through attacking phases to score tries. The other point everyone agrees on is Galthié's lack for interpersonal skills with players. He's seen more as a chess player and not a man manager. A huge reason France are able to execute their game plan is also their defensive coach Shaun Edwards, but also the rest of their all-round superstar coaching team. Either way, no one can deny the depth Galthié has built across French rugby, claiming impressive victories even when fielding their B-side. Up next, Rassie Erasmus, one of rugby's most entertaining and controversial characters. Coaching at a professional level for close to 20 years, he's really proven himself as a rugby mastermind. After watching the behind the scenes of the Springboks 2019 World Cup campaign, Rassie definitely pulls on the emotional heartstrings of every player in the squad. He wears his heart on his sleeve, whether it's running the water, calling out referees in tweets, or being a straight shooter at press conferences. As a head coach, he's managed a 65% win record, which doesn't sound great, but most importantly, he manages to pull the playing group together when it matters. He's been in the coaching staff for both of the Springboks World Cup wins and was crowned Coach of the Year in 2019. Now, I could be wrong here, so please let me know in the comments if I am. I understand Rassie is now the director of rugby in South Africa, and Jacques Nienaber is the coach. These two have worked together for a very long period of time in a coach-assistant coach partnership. Now, I could be wrong, but I still believe Rassie is pulling most of the strings as director of the Springboks. But in that role, his team's not as impacted with the constant bans for referee bashing on social media, which is just hilarious. Before I get into number 1, I want to quickly give a special mention to Patrice Lagasguet, former player for France. Patrice Lagasguet has led a resurgence of Portuguese rugby since taking the reins. He's managed to boost Portugal up in the world rankings since taking over and successfully qualify them for the Rugby World Cup. A subscriber actually tipped me off in the comment section about the waves being made in Portugal rugby at the moment, and holy smokes, they run the ball at every single opportunity. It's really exciting rugby to watch, and there's no doubt in my mind that this playstyle has helped generate a lot of interest in Portugal rugby. And topping the list, you probably guessed it, Andy Farrell. He deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to achieve while taking the reins for Ireland. Now, if you don't agree, hear me out. They currently have the top ranked side in the world for 37 weeks straight, and it certainly doesn't look like changing as we get closer to the World Cup. A 78% win record, which is outrageously high. It is right up there with some of the best coaching records in history. Yes, Ireland do have talented players at the moment, but Farrell's managed to get the absolute best out of so many players, which have transformed Ireland from a team that can mix it up with the world's best to the benchmark. Six Nations champions in 2023, achieving the Grand Slam and taking Ireland to their first series win in New Zealand. Not much more needs to be said. They're playing a brand of rugby that doesn't just win games, but is admired by fans right around the world. They never stop running the ball while keeping some of the tightest, impenetrable defence we've ever seen. If Ireland can progress past the quarterfinal stage of this Rugby World Cup, something they've never achieved before, Farrell will have well and truly written his name in the history books. A quick shout out to some coaches who have had amazing success but didn't make my list. Jamie Joseph, Warren Gatland and Simon Middleton. The man who led women's team to a ridiculous 30-win streak. Honestly, I just don't know that much about women's rugby at the moment. Not everyone can make the list, but I am planning to make another video on the coaching ideologies and philosophies of some of the best coaches in rugby history. Let me know if this is something you're keen on. Thanks heaps for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.